Hello everyone. I want to start by thanking the organizers of the Worldcanic and the board to invite me here and my wife to this beautiful island. It was crazy to come from a snowy storm in Iceland and land here in this paradise, and we are really grateful to be here. I'm gonna do a little presentation about our rye bread that we make in our hometown, and I believe I need some to switch the slides. Yeah. There you can see a picture of me just by the springs. You can see a big hot spring there that I will talk to you about later. Around that big hot spring we have a lot of cracks in the ground that brings us boiling water, and we have been using those cracks and these holes to bake rye bread for decades. And this is something my grandmother used to do, and my mother and a lot of other locals in this village. So we are we are honoring the history. There we have the first slide, and I just wanted to point out that in Iceland we have a lot of hot springs, and today we heat up about 90% of all houses in Iceland with geothermal water, and this is one of the stations that brings hot water to the capital city. Greenhouses, we have a lot of greenhouses, and we use the hot water to heat them up, and in about 1930 we got our first greenhouse. We were importing all vegetables, for example cucumbers, that we just recently started producing enough in the country for us to consume, also all our visitors, and we are now also exporting cucumbers to the Faroe Islands and the Greenland. So it's amazing to be exporting greens in this snowy land. Next slide. This is my beautiful village that I grew up in, and I am a general manager here at the Fontana Spa. And here in this building right here, I will tell you about a little later, we have the geothermal spa. In this village we have 3 hot springs, and we have this so-called big one that we use to heat up every house in the village, the swimming pool, and basically everything we need to heat up. We even heat up the pavement so we don't have to shovel snow. Over at the spa I'm working in, we have this steam bath. So this building is basically placed on top of a hot spring, and when you're sitting in there you are getting the heat, the steam and everything directly from underneath. So it's as natural as you can have it for steam bathing. Now we have the third one, and this one is the most historical one, and in about the year 1000 or so, when Icelanders were being Christianized, these Vikings were doing it at the national park 20 minutes away in a freezing cold water, and at some point some of these Vikings said, you know, let's go over to this little village and do this in warm water. And there are actually written documents about this. Now the rye bread, how did it start for me? Or us, my wife here. We were running a summer hotel in the village, and we were both managing the hotel, and I was also running the kitchen. And we always served this rye bread for breakfast. And one day we decided to put a little announcement in the reception offering the guests of the hotel to go with the chef tonight to dig up rye bread from the hot spring. And we had no idea if anyone would come along. Now that evening, you know, I was in the kitchen, we had a lot of groups, and I was really, you know, really busy. And by the end of the night, I went down to the hot spring and was gonna dig up this bread, and I remembered I put the announcement in the reception. So I drove my car back to the hotel, and as I got there, there were 80 people waiting. So I had to park my car and invite them for a walk, and we went down there, we dig up this bread, and I gave them all it for tasting, and we didn't have any bread for breakfast the day after, but we really saw this time that this was really interesting to people. So, you know, as the day go by, I was offered this job to be a manager at the Fontana Spa, and we started offering tours from the spa to the spring, and that's how it all started. At this point, I want to show you the whole process of how I mix the dough, put it in the ground, get it up, put a little butter on it, and so if we could have the video, please. This was the next slide. Like they say in television, anything can happen when you're doing live. So we often cook eggs in these boiling spots. This is the big hot spring. And here we have the ingredients. The rye. Really simple recipe that, like I said, got from my grandmother. The flour, the sugar, baking powder, and salt. Milk. Get stirred up good. Okay, you can see the smoke all over there. The steam, I mean. We use stainless steel pots, and we wrap them with plastic so the groundwater doesn't get inside. You just dig a hole until you come to a boiling point, and you just put it down there and leave it for 24 hours. It takes 24 hours to bake. Then the day after, you can see how it's, you know, boiling all around it, looking delicious, right? Yeah. We rinse it up a little bit in the lake. Actually, the water in the lake is warm, close to the hot springs. Beautiful. Yes. And when I cut the bread and I open it up and I have a perfect bread, like this one, I say, Grandma would be proud. Yeah. We have the smoked trout there. This trout is from the lake, just by the village, and there is a farmer on the other side of the lake that's doing all the smoking. Now, this is exactly the same thing I will present to you today for the lunch, except the bread is not warm from the hot spring. All right. Just have a little taste. Ah, yes. So good. Okay. Now this is something we often do. It's also tastes very well with the bread. We cook the eggs. We just put them in the boiling spots and we leave them for 11, 12, 13 minutes, and that's just a fun way to cook an egg. And yeah, how do I go back? Yes. Yeah, like I said, from our spa, we have now the geothermal rye bread tours, and we basically just walk from the spa to the spring area where we tell the guests about the hot springs and how we use the hot water in the village. And then we tell them about the bread, and then we dig up the bread in front of them so they show the whole process. And here she is digging up bread. The next one is ready to go down. And then we either consume it right on spot, or if the weather is not good, we just walk to the spa and we give them a taste in the spa, as she is doing right there. And we are getting thousands of tourists to come and see this. So that's really a nice thing. Everyone gets to taste the bread just like there. My cooking today is not very complicated, but I brought with me from Iceland, I brought with me bread, and I brought with me trout from the lake, and I brought with me Icelandic butter. And this is so local that the butter is even local. It's from the cows close to Laugarvatn, produced in a village there close by. Okay. Okay. So I just slice this up here a little bit. Okay. Then we put a little butter on this. My grandfather, he always said that you have to have this thickness of bread, same of butter, and same of trout. Okay, then we have the trout here. And we just voila. This you will all get to taste later on today. All right. Okay. So thank you very much. All right.